Minions: The Rise of Gru in 3 days has amassed more at the box office than Lightyear has in its first 17. Game over, Disney Pixar. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back, folks. Another great day here at Valliant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video that are not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, do leave a comment before you head out the door today. We are the place you come to have Hollywood put through the business and financial lens of reality. And today is going to be no different because it's kind of funny. Here we are with Minions: The Rise of Gru, and to no surprise at all, or it should be no surprise at all, this thing was a big hit over the weekend. It's actually pacing the original Minions film from back in 2015, almost to the dollar. Now, again, of course, that does not include any type of inflationary adjustments. We will get to some of those numbers, but just as big is the story that is the humiliation at this point of Disney Pixar's Lightyear. Let's look at some of the charts, shall we? So here we go with the weekend estimates, and these are the 3-day weekend estimates. We will talk about the 4-day estimates as we get to each picture. Those are on the separate screens, but I want you to notice here, look at the top 5. Minions: The Rise of Gru, 108.5 million domestic box office here in the US and Canada. Top Gun: Maverick, the movie that just will not quit, another 25.5 million on its 6th weekend. Elvis coming in at 19 million on its second weekend. Jurassic World Dominion, its 4th weekend, pulls in another 15.65 million. And The Black Phone, also in its second weekend, pulling in 12.3 million. And there's something notoriously missing from this. And let's see, we have to click through. What's missing that didn't even make the top 5 this weekend? Let's see the full weekend chart here. Oh, it's Lightyear. It fell out of the top 5, no surprise, with a paltry $6.5 million in its 3rd weekend. Another 60+% drop weekend over weekend, bringing its total gross finally crossing the $100 million threshold after nearly 17 days in release. Again, look at Rise of Gru, 108.5 million after just 3 days. And before we get to that, let's talk about one of the favorites here on Valliant Renegade and favorites of many folks out there, Top Gun: Maverick, now crossing 1.1 billion globally. Again, I told you, I said I thought this movie was going to roll out to around a $1.2 to $1.3 billion finish. I'm going to have to push that up. I think 1.2 is going to be easily a foregone conclusion. We may see that by the end of next weekend. 1.3 billion is probably going to be closer, although I think it's going to cross that. It might even get close to 1.4. This movie continues to surprise me. It certainly should have the biggest domestic box office of the year for 2022. That domestic box office, I suspect, is going to round out to somewhere around $650 million, which is just stunning, especially considering that it opened a 3-day run with 126 million from Thursday night previews to the first Sunday. The international box office just got a recent jolt as the film in the past week released in South Korea. Big market for Tom Cruise. It will probably pull around 40 to 50 million in total from that market when it's done. That would not surprise me at all, as popular as he is there. Switching over to the other big blockbuster that is still floating around out there, that is Jurassic World Dominion. Its numbers certainly have trailed off far more sharply at the same point than did Top Gun: Maverick, so I don't expect it to outgross it, although potentially in the international markets, I wouldn't be at all surprised, but this movie also is released in China. And you can see here that $828 million through the end of this weekend. If we click down here, we can see the Chinese box office accounts for about 128 million of that. So if we take China out and we were to compare these things in a relative term, with China removed, as many of the movies, including Top Gun, do not have a Chinese release, that would put its total worldwide box office haul at around 700 million at this point. China also, as a reminder to everybody, only sends about 20 to 25% of that box office take, that 128, makes it back to the studio, in this case, to Universal. Now, as much as Top Gun Maverick is the movie that won't quit, Disney Pixar's Lightyear is the movie that just won't start. We are now 17 days in, 18 if you include the write-through of estimates for today, Monday, July 4th, Independence Day. That's where that 106.9 million figure that you see domestic box office on your screen right now is coming from. That includes the Monday projections. International box office now standing at 82 million for a total worldwide box office of a paltry $189 million. And again, I want to remind everybody, this is an animated feature with a $200 million listed production budget. Easily another 100 million or so when it comes to global marketing, which probably is around the same kind of money that was spent on Universal for Minions, which we'll get to in just a moment. But again, we're looking at $189 million. This movie really needed to get up to around $600 million to cover all of its costs. That is not going to happen. Disney is still, as I said, after the opening weekend, Disney is still probably going to lose somewhere to the order of around $150 million on this movie. So let's look at the comparative chart here. We've got Minions from 2015, Minions Rise of Gru from this year, and Lightyear from this year. And I don't think I need to do much describing here to see what's going on. We've got the red and blue lines, which are the two Minions movies, the blue line being Minions from 2015, and the red line, the Rise of Gru from this year. They're right on top of one another. In fact, after the first 4 days, these movies are pacing each other almost exactly. 128,664 for Minions and 127.9 for Minions, the Rise of Gru. And of course, that 127.9 is still an estimate at this point. That could jump up easily another couple of $1 million and beat it dollar for dollar, again, with no inflation adjustment at this point. But if we look down here after the first 4 days of Lightyear, it was sitting at $57 million. We're now on day 18 of Lightyear, and we've got $107 million. By day 4, both of these previous Minions movies have completely blown the doors off of Lightyear. It's just not even close. And this is the big difference when you have a property like this that generates a ton of buzz, good marketing, and people that want to go see it. And let's scroll down here because I want to make this very clear. Look at the production budget listed for Minions from 2015. It was right around $75 million. Now, Minions Rise of Gru does not appear on this chart yet. But from what I have seen, doing a little bit of digging, the production budget for Minions The Rise of Gru is reportedly somewhere around $85 million. In other words, if you put the production budgets of Minions and Minions The Rise of Gru together, you'd still be $40 million less than what they spent on Lightyear, which is the worst performing movie of the three, and that is a big, big problem for Disney. I promise you, there are going to be some major changes, not only at Pixar, but also with the Walt Disney Animation Studios as well, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit more about Minions and the incredible marketing program that went on with this movie. Here we are from Deadline Magazine and Anthony D'Alessandro. This is from yesterday, Sunday, July 3rd. Minions, The Rise of Gru's record 128 million Independence Day opening, fueled by a $285 million plus promotional campaign, the biggest ever for the franchise. Now let's talk about some of these details. While it may go without saying, realize that Rise of Gru's success here, in addition to being built on the back of a multi-million-dollar global marketing campaign, is also propped by a kids brand that has generated over $6 billion in retail merchandising sales. And that brand was built off what was an original motion picture 12 years ago, which hasn't dimmed. Streaming movie franchises just don't yield these types of results. And that is true. And we've talked about that for almost a year now that we've been on YouTube here at Valliant Renegade. And that is the power of the box office. And the box office does not need Hollywood near as much as Hollywood needs the theatrical box office, because there is no way to generate this type of buzz. There is no way to generate, frankly, this type of revenue, if any at all, on streaming services, short of something going out in a premium video on demand or PVOD release. But even those have severe limitations, because when you do that, you're not going to get $285 million of co-marketing and co-branding from marketing partners. Let's go back to the article and talk about who some of those are. When you're a motion picture global brand, advertisers want to partner with you. And in the case of Minions Rise of Gru, Universal pulled in a group of global advertisers who altogether delivered the biggest media value ever for an Illumination Despicable Me Minions movie at $285 million, according to sources. These stateside partners included Liberty Mutual, CarMax, ZipRecruiter, IHOP Restaurants, HelloFresh, Hippias, Levi's, Supergoop, Olipop, McDonald's, and many more. Consider the feat with pulling this promo partnership off for a minute. This was a movie that was originally scheduled to come out 2 years ago. The pandemic screwed up all those promo partnerships for a number of movies, i.e. bags of Wonder Woman 1984 Doritos were hitting grocery store shelves during the summer of 2020 as the sequel was originally set to be released then. There were certain movie promotions connected to tentpole films that summer which had to go, as the product and supply chain was ready for that product. In the case of Minions: The Rise of Gru, toys connected to the movie were hitting Walmart. Ditto for Top Gun Maverick, which had a Matchbox airplane set on shelves too. And we'll even link to this article below so you can see some of the ad spots, but many of you probably already have seen on television and streaming services. Liberty Mutual, McDonald's, IHOP, all the television commercials, the co-branded products. This is the type of value that gets created. And so for everybody to understand, this does not mean that Universal spent $285 million additional dollars marketing with these campaigns. This means that people like CarMax or Liberty Mutual, they spent a collective amount valued at $285 million marketing their own products, their own goods and services, but using Minions branded things inside of those commercials or spots or the characters themselves. This is where the marketing value comes in. That does not replace what Universal Studios or any company or any distributor in this case would do on their own to market the film itself. So again, with an $85 million budget, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Universal spent at least another $75 to $80 million marketing this film, if not over $100 million, because marketing these days is not cheap. It has gotten radically more expensive, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, and it's just something you can't get away from. But having that extra boost from other marketing partners that are putting on 5-10 times more Minions-based commercials than you can put on yourself as Universal is a huge boost, and it's going to continue to happen probably for the next several weeks. And moving in the exact opposite direction once again is Lightyear, and pretty much almost everything coming out of Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studios, with rare to almost no exception these days. And I think there's a bigger problem going on, and maybe some business moves that the Walt Disney Company seriously needs to consider. I think definitely one of the biggest problems Disney has at this point is the fact that they're running two studios that are basically churning out the exact same products. Of course, there's the classic Walt Disney Animation Studios that's been around since the days of Snow White, and then there's the more recently acquired Pixar Studios. Now, granted, Pixar has made some tremendous pictures, and certainly that Pixar brand name is not something that Disney is going to ever sell off. The question is, do they really have to operate two entirely separate studio entities to continue to make these projects when they, frankly, all look the same now? I mean, apart from the famous tentpole franchises, do you think most people can really tell the difference between what came out of Walt Disney Animation Studios and what came out of Pixar if you were to remove the name brand from each of the films? I highly doubt it. They look the same. They sound the same. They now all are including the same content. I mean, Pixar has been wanting to stick, as they called it, overtly gay affection into films now for quite some time, and it's only been until recently with Lightyear that they were able to do it. But if you go back and you look at Turning Red, another film that was supposed to be made for general audiences, which would include very young children, had issues in there about using tampons and periods and all this other kind of stuff, which, okay, I mean, for a movie that might have been geared at 15-year-old girls, that's one thing. But when you're talking about bringing 5-year-old kids to it, that's probably not something most parents want to have to talk to their kids about after the movie's over. And then we just recently got some new episodes of Baymax on Disney Plus, the character from Big Hero 6. And there's a scene in there where he's in a store shopping, trying to buy tampons. Like, I don't know what's going on at Disney at this point. Maybe is this like a running thing now where everything that they do, every film that they're going to have is going to either have stuff about tampons in it and LGBTQ. Like, this is in everything now. And we've got Strange World coming out later this year, which, again, if you could tell whether it's from Pixar or Walt Disney Animation Studios, I highly doubt it because they all look the same. Going to feature an LGBTQ relationship between two teenage boys. This is just a recurring thing. So take out all of that for a minute and just look at the content they're building from each studio. They're virtually identical. There's no reason to have 2 studio heads. There's no reason to have 2 accounting departments, 2 payroll departments, 2 human resources departments. Consolidate everything down under the Walt Disney Animation Studio franchise tag. And then when you pull out classic Pixar IPs like Cars or Finding Nemo or Ratatouille or WALL-E or Up or something along those lines, big, well-known Pixar names, then you can throw the Pixar name back on it. But at this point, I just don't see what reason the Walt Disney Company has to run both of these studios separately. One of them, Pixar, needs to be shut down. Because at the end of the day, if you keep producing crap that people aren't going to see and spending $200 million on it, there's just an untenable financial situation here that cannot continue to go on. So those are my thoughts for today on the box office and what's going on at Disney and Pixar. Hope you enjoyed this. The Minions are killing it. They're going to keep killing it. I see the Minions probably getting close to around 750 to 800 million globally, which would be tremendous, not to mention the billions more in merchandise that they're going to continue to sell. The Minions movie doesn't have to reach but about 300 to 350 million, I would say, just based on the paltry budget and the excessive marketing partners that they had, where I don't think Universal probably spent more than $75 million themselves marketing the film. Give it $300 or $350 million globally. It should be there by the end of next weekend for sure, and it's making money at the box office. It's going to have a tremendous run, and that is how you should build a family animated children's kind of movie that everybody is going to enjoy, and you can make money on it really quickly. Good to see everybody out there. Make sure you leave your thoughts in a comment below the video. And until next time, take care.